Shalom. All praises, blessings, glories, and honors to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Bercha Kodash. Double honors to my elder apostles and bishop elders of Great Millstone who have taught me this truth, as well as men of like mind. Shalom wa chasad, which means peace and mercy to the elect of the nation of Israel. When we usually call Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and Israelite foreigners of the sea line of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and are scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great, and abroad. To you I say Shalom, and Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Ratazah. This lesson is edifying and informative. Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 5. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, and evil, and only evil, behold, is come. An end is come. The end is come. It watcheth for thee. Behold, it is come. Verse 25. Destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. First Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3. For when they shall say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. In the news. First from the AA.com.tr. Francis Macron calls for digital public order after riots. French President thanks Interior Minister for efforts to restore public order after 4 days of rioting in late June. French President Emmanuel Macron said Monday that a digital public order was needed following widespread riots in late June sparked by the police killing of a teenager. We must protect our children and our teenagers from screens and remove content that calls for violence. We need a digital public order to prevent these outbursts. And so this event that has been going on over the past few weeks in France is being used as leverage to justify why they will need to introduce and instill this so-called digital public order, wherein they will begin to censor screens, that is to say, censor and instill draconian supervision over social media outlets like Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, and TikTok, because these screens, so-called, have contributed only to what France has been experiencing as of lately. Riots on all levels. Okay? Riots that have created a lot of damage by reason of people just going on social media and creating these different groups and whatnot to go about throughout France and do what we've been seeing them doing for the lack of words. But ultimately, we understand that this is just simply gradualism, which is the policy of achieving a desired meaning through gradual stages of controlling everything, of centralizing everything in society. So it says, and remove content that calls for violence. And where are said content posted? On the social medias and the screens, right? Therefore, according to the French president Emmanuel Macron, we need a digital public order to prevent these outbursts, which are first seen and expressed on these different screens. Macron told broadcasters TF1 and France 2 in a joint interview during his visit to New Caledonia. He recalled that protesters used social media to organize meetups and riots, adding our country needs to return to authority at every level, starting with the family. The president underscored that the cause of young people's actions during the riots stemmed from their social backgrounds, including their families and economic situations. It is not up to national education, even less to the policy, to solve the problem. We need to go to the roots and make families aware of their responsibilities, he added. The president also thanked Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin and local authorities for their efforts to restore public order after 4 days of riots in late June. The Interior Minister does a remarkable job, and during the riots, we have seen his effectiveness at the head of his ministry, Macron said. Riots in France. Protests erupted in France late last month when a police officer fatally shot and killed Naeem M, which for all we know could have just been simply a psyop for a particular agenda. A 17-year-old Algerian descent during a traffic check in the Paris, because Esau, he's known for doing a lot of psyops. His whole kingdom is built upon psyops. As El Apostol had once said, and would always say, it's a suburb of Natiri, and it makes sense. Remember, Esau, he's a forger of lies, okay? So he creates lies. It says the incident, his whole life is a lie. It says the incident reportedly occurred after he ignored orders to stop. Following Nahil's killing, thousands of people took to the streets in France. During the protests held in many cities, including Paris, Marseille, and Lyon, there were incidents of pillaging and looting. There you go. So people have been using this opportunity to pillage, shoplift, and loot. Macron pointed to possible intervention in social media if such incidents occurred in the future, which was widely criticized by the opposition parties. And this concludes the article. Point is, they will soon issue this along with many other things across the globe, not just in France, this so-called digital public order. And it will all be tied to we know what when they introduce and subsequently mandate their New World Order across the globe. There will be social credit scores, as a social credit system will be instated. Okay? People will be graded based upon their societal performances. including how they comply and what they tweet on social media and online, and all these different sorts of things. And so moving on to the second article from DRT, majority of Israelis fear civil war. Poll. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's judicial reforms have driven some citizens to consider leaving the country, the survey found. Some 56% of Israelis fear that their nation may descend into civil war amid nationwide protests over new legislation limiting the power of the country's Supreme Court, a poll published on Wednesday has suggested. Israeli President Isaac Herzog previously warned that the legal upheaval could cause bloodshed. Israel's parliament passed the first part of Netanyahu's reform package on Monday, restricting the court's oversight of government actions and limiting its ability to veto political decisions and appointments. So it will basically give him a whole lot of power. That's why he's going to be able to just say, you know what, hit the button, attack Iran, and let's get this shit on and popping. Remember, as it is written, the least of the flock shall draw them out. Okay, draw him out, America, Babylon the Great out, to become a guard unto the state of Israel. Okay, doing the third rule as well. As Russia, Gog and Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal will become a guard unto the Persians, which are the modern day Iranians. Okay, it says, while the PM claimed that the overhaul was necessary to rein in an overpowered judiciary, opposition leaders argued that the move threatened Israel's democracy itself. Demonstrations broke out in multiple cities after the law was passed, with protesters and riot police clashing in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. In the town of Kfar Sabah, situated north of Tel Aviv, 3 people were injured after a driver plowed his car through a group of protesters blocking the highway. Here's a brief image. According to a survey carried out by Israel's Channel 13 on Tuesday, 56% of respondents feared the outbreak of civil war, with more than 10,000 military reservists refusing to serve in protest, and nuclear scientists threatening to quit. 54% of respondents said that the reforms threaten Israel's national security. The poll also found that 20% respondents were weighing a move abroad. Netanyahu has vowed to hold talks with opposition leaders Benny Gantz and Yair Lapid on the remainder of his proposed reforms, and insisted that he is about to compromise. Only 33% of respondents said that they believed the prime minister, but 55% nevertheless called on Gantz and Lapid to return to negotiations with Netanyahu. Gantz has promised that if his centrist National Unity Party comes to power, he will undo Netanyahu's reforms in their entirety. Israel was rocked by protests and strikes from the announcement of the reforms in January until March, when Netanyahu agreed to put them on hold and negotiate with opposition parties. During the most intense demonstrations in mid-March, Israeli President Isaac Herzog publicly called on Netanyahu to accept a watered-down set of changes, warning that a real civil war was within touching distance. This concludes the article. So right now, Israel is in a state of chaos, and many are currently taking to the streets protesting the current governmental reforms concerning their judicial system. And this is the part of the scriptures concerning how there will be uproars of the people. Okay? A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy his houses with the sword, and spoil their goods. Men will not regard their kings nor princes, but the course of their actions shall stand in their own power. Okay, now moving on to the final article. This is from the Sputnik. Fed raises rates to 22-year high. So the Fed today raised rates again after pausing by 0.25%, or 25 basis point. Hike the interest rates, resuming the monetary tightening it began 18 months ago after a pause in June. The committee seeks to achieve maximum employment and inflation at the rate of 2% over the long run. The Fed said at the conclusion of the July meeting of its Policy-Making Federal Open Market Committee, FOMC. In support of these goals, the committee decided to raise the target range for the federal funds rate to 5 1/4 to 5.5%. Further rate decision will depend on the forthcoming data, the FOMC stated. Sticking to language from last month, the committee will also continue reducing the Fed's holding of Treasury securities, as well as agency debt and agency mortgage-backed securities. This is known as QT. In assessing the appropriate stance of monetary policy, the committee will continue to monitor the implications of incoming information for the economic outlook. Also, keep an eye on the yield curve. It says the FOMC added. The committee would be prepared to adjust the stance of monetary policies as appropriate if risks emerge that could impede the attainment of the committee's goal. Hey, something's gonna break, man. As rates keep going up high like this, something is eventually in the background breaking, cracking. So destruction is gonna come suddenly. It says the committee's assessments will take into account a wide range of information, including reading on the labor market's condition, inflation pressures and inflation expectations, and financial and international developments, the FOMC concluded. And this concludes your article. So things are heating up, man. Now let's get the scriptures again and then conclude the lesson. This is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 3. For when they shall say peace and safety, when who's gonna be saying peace and safety, and to who? When the president, the governor, the mayors, local leaders of these people here in America, Babylon the Great, and across the globe promise them peace and safety, or everything's gonna be okay. Then sudden destruction, and remember, according to Ezekiel the 7th chapter, destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. Okay, so destruction will come suddenly upon those that will be promised peace and safety. Then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a womb with child, and they shall not escape. Right, so people will not be able to escape what the Lord is going to bring upon this earth in the near future, man. And I'm going to only continue to see more riots, okay, more uproars of the people, as in Israel and in France. 2 Ezra chapter 15, verse 16. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. So people will not regard their presidents, their mayors, their local leaders, because they will be seditious. They will not respect a lawful authority, because the course of their actions shall stand in their own power. Okay? A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, because the city is going to be closed off. The bridges, the tunnels, the airports, the stellings are going to all be closed off. And because of their pride, the city shall be troubled. The houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods, because of the lack of bread, which is famine, and for great tribulation. So with that, I say shalom to the elect. This has been another In the News report.